Good evening. My name is Chelsea Tippin, and today I'll be reflecting on my sport and exercise practicum completed at Waimak United Football Club. Throughout this practicum, I completed approximately 212 hours across a variety of coaching and football development roles. While I entered the placement hoping to become a better football coach, I leave with a much broader understanding of leadership, communication, reflection, and what effective coaching truly looks like. Today I'll briefly discuss my role within the club, the experiences that shaped my development, the challenges I faced, how theory influenced my coaching practice, and how this practicum has prepared me for a future career in football. Waimak United provided an incredibly diverse practicum experience. Across approximately 212 hours, I was involved in multiple programs ranging from introductory football with mini dribblers through to academy football with the under-14 academy team. Alongside coaching, I also became involved in tournament operations, player meetings, parent communication, referee coordination, and wider club initiatives. This variety meant I wasn't simply learning how to coach football, I was learning how football clubs operate and how coaches contribute both on and off the field. One of the biggest strengths of my practicum was the diversity of responsibilities I was entrusted with. Each program required a different coaching style. Many dribblers focused on confidence and enjoyment. Fantails centered around creating positive environment for girls. The under-13 development program emphasized football fundamentals and player learning. Meanwhile, the under-14 academy required more tactical detail and broader game understanding. Working across these environments challenged me to continually adapt my coaching and communication rather than relying on one approach for every player. Looking back over the practicum, these 6 areas developed the most. Initially, I believed coaching success came from planning a good session. Now I understand that coaching success comes from building relationships, communicating effectively, and creating environments where people enjoy learning. Throughout the session, I became much more confident planning sessions, leading discussions, communicating with parents, and managing teams independently. Perhaps the biggest change was my confidence in trusting my own decisions. The practicum wasn't easy. Early in the season, I suffered a moderate concussion, which significantly affected my coaching ability. Simple things like sunlight, loud environments, and even picking up cones became very difficult. I also experienced some heavy defeats with the under-14 academy side and several negative interactions with opposition coaches because I was coaching boys football as a young female coach. At the time, these experiences were emotionally difficult and is something that I am still dealing with and still struggling with at the moment. However, looking back now, they became some of my biggest learning opportunities because they strengthened my resilience and encouraged me to reflect more deeply about my coaching and why I was there in the first place. As the practicum progressed, I was trusted with increasing responsibility, which I am very grateful for. One major milestone was independently coaching the under-14 academy team where my father was unavailable. Although we lost the game, it was a huge confidence boost because it proved to me that I could successfully manage players, make tactical decisions and lead independently, as I've only ever led a team with an assistant before, so this was a very new challenge for me. The biggest leadership experience came during the SAS tournament, where I independently coached the under-13 team over all 3 days due to my father being unwell. Although we finished 8th overall, seeing the players respond positively after 2 difficult days reinforced that leadership is about creating positive environments rather than simply chasing results. One of the biggest strengths of the practicum was being able to connect theory to practice. Rather than keeping concepts within lectures, these theories became tools that helped me explain my experiences in more depth. For example, using guided questioning with the under-13 development players aligned with Kidman's athlete-centered coaching philosophy. Reflecting after difficult matches helped me develop as a reflective practitioner as described by Shun. Independently coaching increased my self-efficacy, supporting Bandura's theory that confidence develops through mastery experiences. Overall, theory helped me understand not only what happened, but why it happened in the first place. If I had to summarise my biggest learning in one slide, it would be this. At the beginning of the practicum, I thought coaching was primarily about football. Now I understand it is fundamentally about the people. Technical knowledge remains important, don't get me wrong, but players develop most when they're supported and respected as well as being challenged. The strongest teams I coached weren't necessarily the most talented, they were the teams with the strongest relationships and communication. Andy asked me to consider how I hope people perceive me in 5 years' time. This was a big question. I hope players remember me as someone who genuinely cared about them as people before footballers. I hope parents continue to see me as approachable and trustworthy. I hope colleagues see me as hardworking and collaborative. But most importantly, I hope I'm recognised as someone who continues learning and reflecting rather than believing I already know everything. The practicum produced several outcomes that I'm incredibly proud of. My confidence increased significantly. My coaching philosophy became much clearer. I continued progressing through my NZFB licence, but most importantly, I was fortunate enough to receive a confidential job offer. Regardless of what happens in the future, simply being considered for this role showed me that my development throughout this placement has been recognised by a club. If I could give one piece of advice to future practicum students, it would be to embrace every opportunity. Some of my greatest learning came from experiences that weren't originally part of my role as stated in my learning contract. I'd also encourage students to ask questions, seek feedback, and reflect honestly after each coaching experience. Finally, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Looking back, my biggest growth came from my biggest challenges. I'd like to finish by thanking everyone who supported me throughout this practicum. Thank you to Talia for providing such an incredible learning opportunity and continually encouraging me to step outside of my comfort zone. Thank you to DK and Mark for generously sharing your knowledge throughout the season so far. And a special thank you to my dad for mentoring me every step of the way and helping shape the coach that I am becoming. Finally, thank you to Andy and Massey University for providing the opportunity to undertake this placement in the first place. This practicum has been the most valuable professional learning experience of my degree so far and has reinforced my passion for coaching and football development as a whole. Thank you very much for listening.